Welcome to In Focus, Texas. I'm your host, Jordan Hicks. First, let's talk about how we got here. HB 3 is a huge piece of legislation, and it's something that you guys have been working on for decades. How'd the House land on this particular plan? You know, there's many reasons for folks to be proud of Texas. Good food, music, a booming economy, and cities that top the list of best places to live. Unfortunately, healthcare isn't on that list. With an issue that's, it's complicated to track, it's complicated to research, and even when you're trying to nail down the cause for why this is happening, that can get a little bit complicated as well. How do you go about fixing that issue and bringing those rates down? Your bill is focused directly on affordability and making it easier on the patient, and it's a good bill. But Texas also has the lowest number of and percentage of uninsured people under 65. Now 4.7 million, that's the number, and that's according to Kaiser Family Foundation. They also believe that 1.1 million low-income people could be eligible for Medicaid under a Medicaid expansion plan. There's a joint resolution out right now that would put that on the ballot. Do you support that resolution?
Well, the difficulty with that is looking long-term at what the Medicaid expansion does.
Or maybe they're scared they'll receive no justice at all. Take the victim in the case of ex-Baylor frat president Jacob Walter Anderson, for example. That's how she felt after seeing her alleged attacker walk with a plea deal of only 3 years deferred probation and a $400 fine. Winter returns this weekend, with some going all out for the premiere of Game of Thrones' final season. Well, exit polling in 2016 wasn't the most reliable when it came to predicting how that race was going to go, but this year for the midterm elections, slightly different story, at least for Texas. President Trump continued his racist attacks against critics by calling a majority black congressional district a, quote, disgusting rat and rodent-infested mess. Trump took to Twitter to lash out against the black congressman, Representative Elijah Cummings, and his Baltimore area district. Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden has followed Elizabeth Warren's lead by promising to appoint a teacher as Secretary of Education if elected. If you're anything like me, you've waited until this weekend to file your taxes ahead of the deadline on Monday. And while you rush to get your documents together to file, here's your reminder to be careful and make sure things are on the up and up. Under current Texas law, if you're being sexually harassed at work, most can file a formal complaint. But for many small businesses, employees don't receive the same protection. A 2017 Texas law was struck down by a federal judge. The law requires contractors who do business with the state to sign a contract saying they will not boycott Israel.
Jordan, what do we know?
Well, Ed, police are still investigating this shoot/stab call that they got at around 2:48 today.
Later on, I'll show you how this artist went from selling his art on the side of Highway 290 to owning his very own art gallery. Stick around. Wow, so this is a baby giant octopus. What's the difference between octopi and squid? The damage behind me from this fire that ripped through this apartment building this morning. But the worst of it, 2 lost lives found inside of that apartment building. They're not taking any chances, especially after spring of last year when the city went through a series of bombings that killed 2 people. Now that wasn't what happened here, but it just goes to show that that event still has an effect on this community over 1 year later. Can I touch him in the head? Can I touch his head?
Maybe like right in front of his eye right here?
Right here?
Yeah,
oh my goodness.
Right.
Hey, how you doing? The FDA says this brand and 15 others could be linked to dilated cardiomyopathy, or DCM. From 2014 to April of this year, Nutro has been involved in 10 cases of DCM in pets. But this is just the low end of the spectrum. Topping the list are brands Acana and Signature, both with over 60 cases of DCM during the same time frame. Now, Saleh is also a practicing Muslim who is observing Ramadan. I asked her, how is she able to cook all of that good food and not eat during the day? She says it just takes a lot of self-control.
In 2017 alone, more than 66,000 Texans were arrested for simple marijuana possession.
Even in the face of impending defeat, Texans for Responsible Marijuana Policy continues to fight.
Today we're working to make sure that the senators understand the issue when it comes to House Bill 63.
They're passing out flyers to Texas's 31 senators to ask for support for House Bill 63, even as the lieutenant governor declares the bill dead.
All we're asking for at this point is a hearing to talk about this bill that just passed overwhelmingly in the House with bipartisan bipartisan support.
House Bill 63 would reduce penalties for marijuana possession across the state. The bill passed the House earlier this week, but yesterday, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick effectively killed the bill over Twitter, saying in part, quote, "I join with those House Republicans who oppose this step toward legalization of marijuana."
No, the only reason is that they're opposed to legalization.
Younger members of the Republican Party think this argument and current marijuana policy will lead directly to the legalization the lieutenant governor is trying to avoid.
This will take that pressure off to say that, look, we're no longer putting people in prison. We're no longer, we've taken a major step in the right direction for this.
While the bill seems stalled for now, advocates remain hopeful, using these flyers to urge senators to pressure the lieutenant governor into bringing this policy for debate.
He doesn't think that there's an appetite in the Senate. And so the work that we're going to be doing is to stimulate that, is to make sure that he knows that there is enough support in the Senate to justify a hearing.
At the state capitol, Jordan Hicks, Spectrum News. A busy highway isn't the safest place for one to walk. Henry Deeker has to do it blind.
As a blind individual, it's very important that I know my route.
Deeker and his guide dog Tony go up and down Bandera Road every day.
Show me.
They know every nook and cranny of their path, but any unexpected obstacle could mean trouble.
I know the red light cameras have saved my life here on Bandera Road. They protect us from those reds on right. They keep drivers out of the crosswalks.
He was so worried state lawmakers would ban the cameras this year that he went to the Capitol to testify against the bill. But despite his efforts,
I'm about to sign this bill that bans red light cameras in Texas.
But there is a major exception. The measure Governor Greg Abbott signed over the weekend lets cities keep operating the cameras until their contracts with vendors expire, a provision that Leon Valley took very seriously.
Our original contract in Leon Valley was actually for 10 years. However, this spring we did get a 10-year extension on our contract.
That means these cameras are here to stay for another 19 years.
All the way.
A sigh of relief for Deeker and Tony.
Just comfort in knowing the fact that it would be so much less stressful simply getting across the highway.
Still, Deeker wants folks in Leon Valley and beyond to stay alert for folks like him at those busy intersections.
Tony, forward. Please remember to keep a lookout for those of us who can't look out for you.
In Leon Valley, Jordan Hicks, Spectrum News. Out here, it's important to secure the merchandise.
We have another one of those steaks. Yes, sir.
A difficult task when your store is on the side of the highway.
It definitely can be frustrating. It can be tough. Instead of the happy trees, we're doing the happy blue bonnets.
What are some of the perks to being able to do this in your own studio as opposed to on the side of the road?
You don't have the wind. The canvas blew over and the easel went through the canvas.
Before becoming the Highway 290 artist, Chicasso started as a street performer.
Painted silver from head to toe. People will walk right by me and not think anything of it. I'm like, you just saw a silver dude like popping and locking it in front of you.
Chicasso decided he'd make more money painting a canvas instead of himself. For 5 years, he sold art until a well-connected patron introduced him to the owners of the Hill Country Galleria. He and his wife created Flippin' Art 6 months ago, a gallery of old pieces of art Chicasso flips into something new. They also own the Hill Country Art Collective, featuring pieces from other local artists.
Chicasso's been painting his behind off.
Now that the weather can't stop Chicasso from thriving,
now we're indoors. Back when we would be out there when it was cold, when it was hot, when it was windy.
He's opening his doors to other local artists to give them the same opportunity.
We want to help others as well, because if it wasn't for the city of Austin and people being so supportive, I wouldn't be in the situation I'm in now.
In Bee Cave, Jordan Hicks, Spectrum News.